is what, I had him explain it all to me, and I refused to let him use chemistry on me because I flunked freshman chemistry. I just did. I just don't chemistry, and I don't get along. So, I had him explain everything to me, and what does all this mean, and I wrote it all down, and I followed directions. It's really key there. I followed directions. Okay, all the guys out there listening and going, I don't need no stinking directions. Follow the directions. And when I got done, this was one of the most amazing meads I'd ever had that I had made, and I was stunned. And after that, I was a believer. I was stubborn for a long time. I was very, very stubborn. But it does work. You can make amazing mead in a short period of time, right out of the pail. I'm constantly, even now, I see people go, yeah, well, you've got to let it age 6 months to a year. Bullshit. I call bullshit. You can have an amazing mead right out of the bucket. Will it get better with time? Certainly, it probably will. A lot of them do. That doesn't mean that it can't be really awesome as soon as you crack that pail when it's all finished. And because of that experience, I am wide open to what other new things can we figure out? What other new techniques can we create? New tools can we manufacture that are going to make mead making even better, even easier, even faster, take it to the next level?
Yeah, that's one thing I find about mead right now, as opposed to wine and beer, is that wine and beer are both pretty mature processes, and we're just starting really now. The last maybe 5 years is where a lot of the advances that have been made in wine and beer are starting to trickle over into mead, and we're kind of experimenting with them. We're trying to find out which ones work, which ones don't, making new ones, and that's another thing that makes mead a lot more exciting, in my opinion, than the other two. Not that the other two aren't awesome, but the whole newness and the whole experimentation and finding out all these new cool things is just something that I don't think you can experience with beer or wine.
I find it terrifically ironic that you're describing the newness of processes for one of the oldest drinks ever made.
I know, right?
It's fantastic. Yeah. I love that.
But he's right, and that's one of the things that I love about mead is that mead has no limits. There are no boundaries. There are no rules, i.e., in terms of how you can combine flavors, how you can create new things. I mean, you look at wine, and there's a finite number of wine grapes. I mean, there just is. And granted, there are quite a few of them, but it's still finite. There are established beer styles, and now, of course, the beer industry is now branching out into that world, into the Wild West of let's see what we can do here. And I love to see that too. Although some of them aren't working out so well, a lot of them are. I think mead really has a huge lack of boundaries because it doesn't have an established commercial history that says no, it must be this.
Right.
So there's no imposed limits that the other industries have in front of them. Cider's kind of in that place too. It's a little bit, it's not as wide open as mead is, but it doesn't have those imposed limits artificially created by a commercial world who has said, this is what a Merlot looks like. This is what a Cabernet Sauvignon looks like. This is what a, standard cider looks like, or a braggot looks like, or whatever. We don't have that. Well, okay, except as the TTB requires. But from a home perspective, we can do anything we like.
That's one of the things I really like about non-grape wines, too, though, because there's not that many people making them, and you can make them so very different.
Yeah, country wines are fun.
I've had... Oh, yeah. I mean, just the variation in whether you have it sweeter or less sweet, just that can make such a huge difference in the taste of a particular wine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, completely. I did that strawberry mead the one time, and granted, it's not a country wine, but... what it tasted like sweet and what it tasted like dry were like two completely different wines.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think country wines are very similar to melomels because you're using fruits that people aren't used to tasting in alcoholic beverages.
Which
Yep.
brings
And
us,
this is why I found it very helpful. Jack Keller's site is one of the ones that I used to use as a reference as well. Anytime, even when I started making meads and following Got Mead, I'd still double check if I didn't find something come up on Got Mead. Jack Keller was the next place I'd stop because he often had a lot of information on all the weird fruits that nobody else uses.
yeah, we always get that. What is it? About once a year, somebody comes in and says, "Can I make a mead with durian?" And it's like, you can, but do you want to?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get past, it does taste pretty good as long as you hold your nose while you're eating it.
Yes, it's legal in some places. In some places, it's not.
Yeah. Well, I've smelled them, and they're like, they should be illegal everywhere. I'm sorry. It's just like, ew, icky, poo, nasty, smelly. I'd rather have Eastern buckwheat, like in large quantities, undiluted.
I imagine it's something like bake apples, which smell like rotten socks while they're cooking, but they're really nice once they're cooked and cooled.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never. I should diss on the durian. I've never had one. I've just smelled them. But oh my lord, that was just stunningly rememberable.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is that no matter where you come from, when you get to mead, you really gotta make believe like you've never done anything else. Because if you use your old knowledge, you're gonna mess up one way or another. So it's good to have all the good habits from wine or beer, but really you should do your research like a noob, or you're going to make even worse mistakes than noobs.
That's a really good point, because there's a lot of mistakes that I made that probably a noob wouldn't have made, but
Right.
I thought I knew better.
Well, and
Exactly.
that's, I think, the mistakes we make in our well, for want of a better word, in our arrogance of
Well, yeah, we're in our comfort zone, of course.
Right, exactly. I mean, I've made fermented products, therefore I can figure this shit out, and it's like, well, yeah, but this is a different fermented product, and it might act differently under different circumstances. Like, I was when I was muted earlier when you guys were talking, I was banging away on the feed and saying, like, when Manny was on, going, yeah, look, you could turn your back on the boil, So who would think of this, right? Because you sure as hell can't when you're making beer, it knows when you turn your back.
Well, no, I've had sticky honey messes back when I used to boil, because the wine book that I was following suggested that you always boil your water with your sugar, and also they indicated that, honey should be boiled too if it hasn't already been pasteurized. So this is what these are the preconceptions I came into mead making with.
Well, boil and
Right.
skim was what they told you to do when I first started making mead. It was boil the honey for, depending on who you asked, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. It was all over the map. And it was boil and skim, boil and skim, boil and skim until there's no more foam. Yeah. And if you did that, if you actually did that till there was no more foam, you'd be doing it till there was no more honey.
Or flavor.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I sort of cut that one halfway, because they suggested that you boil it to get rid of any bacteria, and they said you can skim the foam if you want. And what I found when I did and didn't was it made a bloody difference, because anything that was in the foam would just sink after fermentation anyway.
Well, not to mention the fact that honey is an antibacterial. So,
Yeah, but there's a reason that they suggest that children under a year old should not have raw honey. It can still carry stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
It can still carry certain bacteria in their spore form. It doesn't necessarily kill everything. It does kill a lot of things, but not everything.
True. Yeah.
And then, of course, once you add water to it, then half of the reason honey is antiseptic is because of the sugar content.
Yeah.
So as soon as you dilute it out into your must, then that's when you're asking for trouble. So, if you boil it first, then you're starting with a clean slate, right? It's the same as idea as sulfiting your fruit must before you start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I didn't used to do that because I had a lot of friends who were sensitive to sulfites, and I figured, what the hell, I don't need to. But, every now and then I ran up to a batch that needed it. Certain batches will actually start getting fuzzy before the actinase has had its chance to do its thing,
Yeah, true.
Pear was one of the worst ones for me. I pretty much just gave up on not sulfiting pears. If I didn't boil it, I sulfited it.
Oh, that's good to know, because I have had on my list forever and a day. I want to make a I want to make a pear mead. The other one that's on my list is to make a like a plum wine but a mead. So like the sweet plum wines that you get in Japanese restaurants, but but as a mead. And what I haven't figured out yet, we'll have to do a speculative recipe episode at some point. That should get a lot of questions. Like recipes you want to try but have no idea how to put it together. Is what kind of plums to use? I don't know, because Japanese plum wine uses Japanese plums, which are damn difficult to get here. So
you would be surprised if you used prunes. Dried prunes. You'd be surprised what you get. It's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Yeah.
OMG. Yeah, okay. I never even looked in that direction.
And it's very much more like a plum when it's done than what you conceive in your head.
Well, it makes sense. Prunes are just dried plums, so, and you're concentrating the sugar there, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And you're feeding them a lot of natural nutrients as well.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay, so we've got a basis here. Hamish is on and listening, and he says, plum mead is great. Damsons are great. Slow, S-L-O-G-H, just because it sounds like slow, but it's slog.
SLOE is another spelling, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know if that's the same thing. He says those are really good, too. But, anyway, yeah, he's in Australia, though, so I'm not sure if slow are available here or not. I'll have to look. But, yeah, so that's a whole thing for another episode, because we're coming up on 11 o'clock and probably should start winding it up.
Mm-hmm.
But, so let's do the... we didn't do any commercials this time, and you know what? We're just going to blow them off. All right. So we've got some upcoming events, and I really do need to get the event calendar up on Got Mead so I can just point to it. Starlight Meadery has ongoing mead tastings, multiple dates, so go check them out at starlightmead.com. Get this. Boss Meadery does movie night. That's so cool. And they're cool. They do art films. So they're doing one called Red Desert. And there's this really long description, but I just pulled the first part, and it says, Michelangelo Antonioni's 1960s panoramas of contemporary alienation were decade-defining artistic events, and Red Desert, his first color film, is perhaps his most epochal. What a great description. There was like another whole paragraph like that. It was like, oh, that's so cool. Anyway, tickets are free, $1 off goblets of mead, and free popcorn. Mead Hall opens at 5 p.m., movie starts at 7 p.m. and go to bossmeadery.com to check it out. That's going to be actually tomorrow, so hustle if you want to go. And then 810 Meadworks has got a whole bunch of different events. Go to 810meadworks.com. This week they have the Moon Hunters at the Beer Garden. June 10th to 11th they're going to be at the Empire Brew Fest. So tons of stuff. I actually was going to pull all their stuff, and it would have been like reading for like 20 minutes. So just go to 810meadworks.com and check out their events list. And then, of course, the Mac Daddy of events, the AHA National Homebrewers Convention, is June 9th to 11th. This was actually on my list of things to do this year, and I just wasn't in a place to do it. And as it turns out, my mom has to have surgery next week, so I couldn't go anyway. But it is, if you haven't been to this thing, and all the friends of mine that have been, go. Just open your schedule, just get your passport and go. And yes, that was a poke at you.
Sorry, man. That's my birthday weekend, and I've already got a thing to do.
Better birthday than the AHA National Homebrewers Convention? I mean, really? Let's go next year. All right.
Upper Canada Medieval Festival. That's what I'm already committed to.
You're fine. That's this year. Go next year. We'll go next year.
It's the same time next year.
No, it isn't. It moves around. Anyway, AHA National Homebrewers Convention is probably the largest collection of mead, cider, home. I mean, yes, nominally it's a homebrew